The last few months, I've been getting a lot of questions and inquiries from viewers about this whole patient engagement thing. I mean, it seems like you can't open a website, you can't look at software these days without hearing how important the patient engagement experience is to DSOs, groups, and practices. And it's really growing, but people are confused. There's third parties, there's vendors that have patient engagement. What is patient engagement? And how do we make it better? And how do we utilize it in our groups, DSOs, and practices with the software we have? So I'm really excited today to have Jana Macon, who's the EVP of Customer Success for Curve Dental. And they actually have taken patient engagement and communications to another level. And I'm really excited to talk about what they've been integrated and incorporated into the Curve Dental products. So I guess the one thing, I think everybody's confused, right? Because the buzzword, it seems like every era has buzzwords in technology, cloud, EHR, right? It seems the buzzword today everybody's using is patient engagement. So can you kind of define that a little bit, a 10,000 foot view of what, from a software vendor, what does patient engagement mean?
Well, I think patient engagement means a lot. I mean, that's a reason it's a buzzword because it really has become the essence of how you run your practice outside of the clinical focus that obviously all providers have. Being able to stay in touch with your patients and doing a good job, bringing them back into the practice is critical. So we think patient engagement really is the future of growing, your business. And that's really why we named our product like we did, Grow, because it's really focused on that, is being able to grow your staff efficiency, grow your patient experience and your relationship with them, and growing your practice profitability.
That's great. Now, as a software vendor, when you looked at incorporating, and we've seen a lot of third-party solutions out there, right? But you've integrated it into your software. And I know as an ex-software development person, I like the idea of doing things myself, right? It gives you control. Can you talk about kind of the journey you had? I'm sure at some point when you started looking at something like patient engagement software, do I do it myself? Do I work with a partner? Talk to me kind of about how you came about with what you do and how it actually is integrated within your product.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Curve has been in the cloud as a practice management system for 12 years. So we had a long time that we didn't have our own patient engagement platform, and we partnered with many of the products that are out there, and they've been fantastic partners. But what we found over the years is that our providers really needed something that was more tightly integrated and something that gave them a single platform feel, a single platform experience to really simplify their life in so many ways. Not only can they get rid of the aggravations with the data syncing, when I put the patient in, is it in my patient engagement software? Is it in my practice management software? When is it going to be updated? Those are challenges that people deal with every day. But also you have one vendor, one partner to deal with. If something goes wrong, as we like to say, we kind of laugh, one throat to choke. If there's something wrong, you're going to call Curve and you're going to ask them what's wrong, and we're going to help you fix it. So we really
that's
feel like
interesting,
that single
Jana.
platform.
I think you and I have been through the same experience because that one throat to choke, being in software for 20 years, I've used that many, many times. So anyway, sorry to interrupt, but
no, that's good. It's an important concept that people have really had to accept multiple vendors as a necessary evil. That's what our providers have had always in the industry. And so that's why we believe, from our experience in healthcare across, other verticals in healthcare, we know that one platform brings so much efficiency and so much convenience to the providers. It's an important thing. So that's why we started off on this journey to build a single platform, our own patient engagement solution. And we did that on the second half of last year. We launched it in Q4, and now we're fully in general availability now with the Grow product.
So Jana, you and I have had some conversations previously about the idea of incorporating workflow, some of these functions that we talk about in technology today. And I think the interesting thing that you've told me in our conversations in the past about your patient engagement is they're not little standalone types of functions, but there's a total workflow involved. And I hope I'm using workflow correctly here. Can you talk a little bit about, from soup to nuts, kind of how it works and kind of the flow of the patient communication and engagement experience with your product?
Yes, I will. And I'll tell you what, I'll use an example because I think that just might be the easiest thing to do.
Mhm.
So if in the Growth product, I have a campaign workflow builder, I call it. And so I can set up my contact campaign for reminders in a very user-friendly environment so that maybe I want 3 touches. Maybe I want, as soon as they leave my office, to send them a note that says, hey, it was great to see you today. We'll see you again on the 15th of February. And then I set my configuration so that automatically it's going to reach out to them again 1 week before their appointment. Hey, want to make sure you remember that you're going to see us on February 15th. Please confirm with us now or let us know if you need to cancel. And then I may have another one set up for the day of the appointment. So excited to see you today. Please remember our COVID protocol. Here's what it is. I have the freedom to do that both in email and text. So I have the opportunity to contact them as many times as I want to through the campaign builder, through text or email, but also I can set tasks. So what might happen is after that second contact, I might configure it so that if I don't get a confirmation after that second contact, a task will be pushed to my work list for my staff to then reach out personally to that patient to make sure that we're making every effort to give them top-notch customer service and to get in touch with them. And also, obviously, not to have a cancellation on our books, to go ahead and fill it if they're going to cancel. So that work list, we call it the smart action list. And that is where the workflow gets pushed from the campaigns so that your office team in the front office can know who they need to call, why they need to call them, who's calling them, et cetera.
You know what? This is great. I'm glad you mentioned tasks because for the last few years of looking at a lot of dental software with clients that are interested in purchasing dental software, as an ex-IT guy, right, I look at dental software as a lot of different things. And one is, how does it help your organization function as streamlined? And the idea of task management and being able to give tasks to people, see if they're done, that's really important. I haven't seen that a lot in dental software. So it's really great that you're combining not just the workflow necessarily of the engagement experience, but you're also having task management. Can you, we've talked, and you've been involved with IT for quite a while. Can
Yeah.
you, can you just reaffirm and talk a little bit about the importance of task management and software?
Yeah.
What it actually gives a customer to actually have that piece of it?
Right. Yes, I will. So, one of the things that I find in dentistry, and I've seen this in other areas of healthcare, again, our front office teams have accepted spreadsheets, sticky notes, notebooks, lists, highlighted sheets as a necessary evil to run their business to make sure they stay organized. And what a task list that's part of your software gives you is a centralized location for all of the work to flow so that you can collaborate as a team. So if I have one person or 2 people or 3 people, or maybe I have some part-time folks, all of the tasks are sitting on a list. I can filter them by owner, I can filter them by due date, I can filter them by status, and I can know exactly if someone called, if they haven't called. There's a complete audit trail to know what happened with each task. So as I grow, so if I'm more than 3 people, what if I'm 10 people? Now I have an office manager who can know at all times without getting up out of their seat and having to go check with each person what's going on and what help is needed. I had a great story the other day from one of our users who said, we have one status called a won't do. So I have an open, closed, and a won't do. And she said, we're going to use the won't do so that if my front office can't resolve it for some reason, they're going to mark it as won't do. And then I, the office manager, know I'm going to filter the won't do list. And those are the things that I have to do. So it's a way of communicating. And as you know this, as we've talked about in other areas of healthcare, especially, things change and move so rapidly. The phone rings, patients walk in, things happen. So the fact that I have one place where all of the work is centralized and everyone knows what's going on, who owns it, what's late, what still needs to be done, is just a powerful tool for efficiency and allows everyone to understand how we can move the ball forward, so to speak, and serve our patients better.
Well, if I ever have to talk about tasks on one of my another podcasts, I'm going to invite you because I think you said a lot more clearly than I've ever said it. So, but it's interesting because the patient engagement workflow uses task management, right? But, and tell me if I'm correct, once you get that task management in that module where you can manage tasks, control them, do all the things you're talking about, well, then later on, that could be adapted to different areas, right? If you do clinical work, front desk, billing, right? I mean, is the idea that once you built this kind of, call it a task engine, I'm going to call it task engine, that now you're all really set for success in task management through other areas of your software, correct?
That's right. That is absolutely on our roadmap, part of our strategic plan. We just feel like what we call it exception management, Mike. You don't need to touch everything. You just only need to touch what's necessary. And the system should be smart enough to tell you what's necessary. And so as we continue to mature this task engine, our users will begin to see it in the Curve Hero platform, to the clinical and the billing, in those areas where there are a lot of repeated tasks that people need to keep up with. This is absolutely something that we're going to continue with.
Great. So we had a little digression, and I kind of caused it by getting excited about task management. Boy, what a weird person getting excited about task management software. That's why I'm Bill, right?
Right.
So, but okay, so let's continue the journey of patient engagement communication.
Yep.
So you have these smart lists. Talk to me about then, how does that workflow continue to the point where patients are getting what they're needed? You're getting what you needed from patients.
Well, the other thing that's so nice is that when the text goes out, let's say, and a patient does confirm, we have a long list of responses that we know would definitely mean, yes, I'm confirming. So it could be, yes, I'll be there. See you then. Anything like that that is a positive, that's going to automatically confirm itself within the schedule of Curve Hero. Again, one platform. Of course, you'd expect that. But then the other thing is, if they want to respond and start a conversation, that can happen as well. So I might say, no, I can't be there. I need to reschedule. And then someone can pick that conversation right up in our live text window so that they can have that conversation again without answering the phone, without having to stop what they're doing. And as you know, with texting communication, particularly from a front office staff, they can kind of multitask that. We can pin conversations at the top of the list. I can keep up with what's going on till I resolve the conversation and reset that patient's appointment. So it's really about being able to allow the patient to contact us in the way they want and when they want, right? And so we know from a lot of the literature out there, we know somewhere between 60 and 80% of patients are telling us that they would rather receive a text if it's possible, because now I'm not interrupting my day. I can respond to you when it's convenient, or maybe as a patient, I'm going to multitask while I'm on a conference call, or I'm doing something with my kids. I can also answer the dentist's office. So to having that two-way conversational text really, we think, completes the communication circle, where it really allows us to be available to the patient in every way that we can, to do our best to confirm them, but then also to reschedule them or meet their needs.
And from a technology standpoint, again, having developed software myself, I would think that having developed this internally to the Curve platform, it gives you a little more flexibility and adaptability to making changes. So for example, if I'm a patient of yours, or not a patient, but a customer, I'm a DSO, I'm using your software, and I say, hey, Jana, it'd be great if we could tweak this workflow. It would help me immensely, right? Well, if you're dealing with a third-party patient engagement platform, it has to go through that whole process, whereas you could decide to do that or not. But the point is, you have control of your own destiny when it comes to your own software, right? So I would think that having that integrated in your software gives you a little more flexibility in making changes that you need to, or for your customer base. Maybe you decide, hey, we have X customers and 80% of them want this feature.
Right.
We just go for it, right? So you're able to do that, correct?
We do. That does give us a good amount of control. We have a very robust beta process, and also a user advisory council. So as we rolled this tool out in development, we had a team of Curve users who were giving us iterative input as we would get the next thing done and the next thing done. And so that's also, really critical part of being on a cloud platform, is being part of that process. So yes, going along with what you said, absolutely. We have control and our users have input.
Okay, so I'm going to switch gears a little bit since you talk about user input, right? Because, okay, I think it's really important for the audience to hear how vendors work, and especially with what you're doing. So for example, being an ex-software person, right, programmer, right, there's always a tendency for us geeks to say, we know how to do it, right? We might not know the business, but we know how to program, right? But really the innovation comes from the people that use it, right? So talk to me a little bit, or expand a little bit on the process you started talking about, how you use user input to improve and change the product, because so many companies just have their development people just develop, right? And don't necessarily embrace. And a lot of vendors say, yeah, we use user input, but there's not necessarily a process for it. So I guess a little digression from what we're talking about, but it's important. Talk to me about the user process, the user input process you folks have at Curve.
Well, I'll say that from the beginning, and I only entered Curve about 2.5 years ago, and coming in as part of the investment team and taking it to the next level. Of course, we were looking for, all of the things that they sort of brought to the table, just as the company that they were. And something I was so impressed with in 30 years of software is the amount of data that they collect and use from their customers regarding particularly product enhancements, things that people would like to see changed, or things that they don't particularly like or they think could be better. For whatever their motivation is, they want it to be different. We have a very robust process to collect that information, to store it, and then it all comes to the table. So, for example, when we started to talk about patient engagement, we pulled hundreds and hundreds of cases that we had collected over the years where people had told us what they wanted the product to do. We classify those into groups, we classify them into functions, we begin to build what we call an epic, which is that big story about what is patient engagement going to look like as part of our agile process. And then we begin to break it into components. And then which of those stories, the things that our users tell us, these user stories work their way into what the design of the product looks like. So I work in the front office and I do this, and I want the product to do A, B, and C. So this is the way these stories begin to break down. And frankly, those stories get tweaked a bit. Obviously, from a technical perspective, we have to kind of look at them in the bigger picture. How does it apply to the majority of our customers, as you noted a few minutes ago? But at the end of the day, we're taking those user stories and scenarios, and we are absolutely pulling them through the development process, in order to deliver a product that the market wants, because that's who's telling us. Our customers are telling us what they want. And woe on us if we don't develop what they want, right? What they need.
Right. How much better it is. Obviously, it's a lot of upfront work, but much better to do all that upfront work and know what's going to work, instead of how a lot of vendors do trial and error. Hey, let's throw something out there, see if it sticks, see if our customers like it. We can tweak it, right? So going about it in an organized fashion is great. Wow, this is great. So I've kind of taken you on a journey in a few places, but I think all of it ties in and is all relevant. But again, I like what you're starting to do. Really, the patient engagement workflow in Tesla sounds like it's just the tip of the iceberg for some of the automated workflows that you're bringing in. And I have to say, Jana, the reason I wanted to do this with you, I don't know if our viewers know this, but you and I first talked when I did a cover story last fall for Dental Products Report on digital transformation of dentistry. And we talked a little bit about these automated workflows and task lists. And, I went back when I was looking for a real interesting topic for the podcast, and I looked at the article again, and I said, man, this is gold. I have to grab Jana, and we have to see where
I'm glad you did.
Yes. 4 months later, right? So
we're excited. Hey, and we talked about it 4 or 5 months ago, and now it's real product. So that's another thing that you don't always see out there, right? People talk about doing stuff, they don't exactly deliver it at times. So we're very excited to pull this product out to the market.
Well, listen, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. And I just want to say that I think it's great what you're doing. I think you're being very innovative about it. And I look forward to talking to you folks about what kinds of innovations and technology Curve is doing in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate mine.